I'm Dr. Allan Perel, and this is Conversations in Medicine. I'm Dr. Allan Perel, and this is Conversations in Medicine. This program brings cutting-edge medical topics to the Staten Island and tri-state community. We're going to do something a little different this evening, and I have a wonderful guest here. We're going to talk about injuries. People get hurt everywhere and anywhere. You get hurt at home, at work, in a car. You can get hurt by repetitive injuries. We all watched football this weekend, and sometimes hear stories about athletes, football players, who have something called CTE, which deals with chronic traumatic encephalopathy, a mouthful. It talks about cognitive issues that occur with multiple injuries. And as I said, they could happen anytime and anywhere. My wonderful guest is an expert in this field. Jonathan D'Agostino has been in practice as an attorney for over 30 years, and someone who I really respect very much with regard to his professionalism and how he helps take care of people who come to him with injuries. So as a neurologist, I see a lot of people who've had injuries, whether they were hurt at work, hurt in car accidents, had head trauma, injured their neck, injured their lower back. So it's a very common thing that we think about it. And if you talk about this to anybody that you know or are friendly with, you always hear stories about, well, I got hurt. And we had someone even at CTV tell us a few moments ago how they fell down some stairs. And what did they do? And they needed surgery. So these things are not uncommon. And that's really why we have doctors who take care of patients with this and people who represent clients and people. So just getting back to the formal introduction, Jonathan D'Agostino is a personal injury attorney for over 30 years. It's my pleasure to have him here. And really he's going to educate us and help us learn a lot about what do you do if you get hurt? Who do you call? Yeah. Thank you. So let's get started. What's a personal injury attorney?
Well, he's an attorney, which means he's gone through he's gone through college. He's gone through 4 years of undergrad school. He's gone on beyond that to law school. And depending on whether he went full-time or part-time, he went 3 or 4 years. I went full-time, so I went to Skidmore College. I did 4 years there, and then I went to Brooklyn Law School. Full-time, I did 3 years, and I worked through those years at law school for a law firm on Court Street while I was clerking for a judge in the Supreme Court in Kings County. And then I stayed with that firm for another year, and then I basically jumped ship and started my own practice and never looked back. So a personal injury attorney is going to be an attorney who specializes in representing people who are injured as a result of negligence. And negligence is, I guess, defined as the failure to use reasonable care. So if you're injured as a result of a dangerous or defective condition, or somebody who's not paying attention, or anything that really goes beyond the use of reasonable care, you probably want to consult with somebody who specializes in personal injury law.
Why did you find that? What do you find interesting about personal injury?
Well, I'll tell you the story, okay? Because I was destined to go into the construction business. My father was a construction, he owned a construction company. He was a bulldozer operator who, when I was a small child, lost a leg in a construction accident. I think that's where it started for me, because I was a young child. I knew what it was like to see the breadwinner, reach a point where he was unable to work. My mom had to go work in a restaurant, and he learned to walk again through the use of a prosthetic. He had a workers' compensation claim. He dealt with an attorney who helped him recover some money. He used that money to start his own construction company. That company built itself up. I worked in that company every summer from 13 until I decided to go to law school. And I think what led me to personal injury was, honestly, it was an internship during college with a personal injury firm. And I just fell in love with that. It was just a good fit. Somebody comes to you, they need your help. And honestly, I I thought it was comforting that they don't have to ask somebody for a retainer for money up front. I'm going to represent somebody who's injured. I'm going to try to get them compensated. And my fee, it's a free consultation, and our fee is contingent upon whatever we recover for our clients.
So tell me about what a free consultation means.
So free
And
consultation.
that's not uncommon in the field, is it?
No, it's actually the norm in personal injury, which I think is a fantastic thing because you can meet with an attorney who's got all this extensive training. They're not billing you by the hour, and you can ask them as many questions as you want. And if you come to my office, I'm going to tell you what your rights are, tell you what your options are, and you're going to make a decision. Maybe you decide you want to do something, maybe you decide not to do something, but at least you're finding out what you're entitled to, you're finding out what your rights are, you're finding out what the options are, and then your family can make a decision, an educated decision on which way to turn and what to do.
There are good doctors, bad doctors, good accountants, bad accountants. And professionals are very interesting because we give our services, most of them are cognitive services, thinking services. Again, there are surgeons who actually do certain things, but again, mostly cognitive types of interactions. The reputation of people in personal injury attorneys, sometimes they're not the best. You watch television shows, there's a stereotype. As someone who's a very professional man, who I've seen do so well with my patients and people around the community, tell me a little bit, what makes the difference in levels of what we perceive?
Look, there's good and bad in everything, in every profession. And as an attorney, really, if you've got your client's rights, right up there at the top of what's important, and you're going to do right by your client, when I sit down with a client, I'm trying to not only figure out what the best options are, but I want to help them from A to Z. I want to help them make sure they get the right benefits that they're entitled to, be compensated for their injuries, put them in the right hands, whether it's medical care professionals, if they need recommendations, we can help them with that. If they need to help get their car fixed, we can help them with that. But in this industry, there's a lot of fraud, unfortunately. And it's very easy for people to now, hear the term personal injury attorney and equate that to an ambulance chaser. And you hear about that because there are so many people out there who see an accident victim as an opportunity, and it's an opportunity to make money. It's an opportunity to take that accident victim and put him in the hands of certain medical care professionals that really aren't reputable for the wrong reasons, so that people can bill insurance companies, so that people can make more money. And it becomes this whole vicious cycle. But when somebody comes to me, I think it's very clear that there's no pressure. I don't stick a retainer down in front of them and force them to sign. I let them have full use of the free consultation. I let them make an educated decision. And then I have a team that's really handpicked and trained by me. There are departments that will handle every part of your case and ethically, and everyone in my firm is an extension of me. So I'm somebody who's trying to, at all times, do the right thing. If you're in my office right now, you're going to see behind my desk all these Jiminy Cricket figures and Pinocchio figures, because since I'm a kid, I grew up somehow with a love of Jiminy Cricket, and always let your conscience be your guide. It's on my wall right next to my desk, and I can't tell you how many times I've pointed to that cell, the Disney cell, when a client was trying to make a decision, because I'm not going to tell a client, yes, you should have surgery, no, you should have surgery, you'll get more money. There are lawyers that will tell clients that. Have an injection, you'll get more money. How do I know this? Because clients come to me, they're already represented by attorneys. My attorney told me if I have surgery, I'll get more money. Is that true? And I just won't go down that road. I won't do it.
So tell me about it. So if somebody was injured, does everyone need an attorney?
Everybody really doesn't need an attorney, but I would say, first of all, what is the extent of the injury? Really, because there's all types of negligence. There's a broken sidewalk and somebody trips over that broken sidewalk. But they get up and what is the injury? The injury is they got a scrape on their hand. You can put a Band-Aid on it and get on with your life. You don't need to consult with an attorney. If you fall and there's something more serious, you're in pain, You're at a point where you really do need medical attention, I would say find out what your rights are. Find out if you're entitled to any benefits. Find out if you're entitled to be compensated. It never hurts, and that's the way I look at it. And honestly, I even take a lot of pride in consulting and being there for the person who caused the accident to consult with me. I can't tell you how many times I've taken a call from somebody who caused the accident, and they're concerned because somebody's going to sue them, and I explain to them what's going to happen and what their rights are as well. So to answer your question, I would say, no, everybody doesn't need a free consultation, but if there's an injury that is more than just something that's minor, I would say it doesn't hurt.
I understand, I agree. So tell me, the world's a very complicated place. Where you get hurt means a lot. If you're in a car, it's one type of thing. If you're at work, it's another kind of thing. If you're volunteering someplace, that's another type of thing. How does someone know who to call? There are different kinds of lawyers for people who take care of work-related injuries. There's different kind of lawyers who deal with, say, you have a chronic illness or chronic injury and can't continue to work, something called Social Security, as you know. And I know you have a division in your firm, and
Correct.
Many people do. So tell us, how do you divide that up? How do you know where to send the right person?
Well, a lot of times they interconnect. So a lot of times we're representing somebody, it starts with somebody who was injured on a construction site. And, they've got significant back pain. They can't return to work. So they're going for treatment. Now they're going for surgery. We're representing them, and we're suing the general contractor on the site under the labor laws. So our job is to get them compensated for their pain and suffering. If there are lost wages, our job is to incorporate that into their case. Ultimately, there's going to come a day when we're going to try to help them get that compensation. However, now let's say they can't return to work. A doctor deems them permanently disabled, and it's somebody who doesn't have an education that will allow them to get outside of the construction industry. I mean, they can't go on and do anything else. They're not really capable of any other thing. So they come in and they sit down with one of our attorneys in the Social Security Department, and we help them file for their Social Security benefits. Or if they've already filed for it, we help them file an appeal for that. If they have, because they were injured on the job, there's going to be a workers' compensation claim involved because, as you know, the workers' compensation laws apply if you're injured while you're in the course of your employment. And those laws say that you can't sue your employer or other employees for negligence. So you're looking for a third party to go after. That's also our job. So these things all interconnect, and that's why in my firm we have different departments to handle different parts of these claims.
And I know this is not you directly. This is more just education for the public.
Sure.
If someone gets hurt and they don't have insurance, someone gets hurt, they don't know what to do. And should they seek medical care and then hope something happens afterwards? Or should they not go to the emergency room? I mean, I've always recommended to my patients and people, who I've gotten calls, say, go right to the emergency room. We'll figure it out later if you were injured in some way. Because, I mean, we don't want to take a chance of someone not seeking the proper medical care, and because of economics. And that's always a difficult issue, and that's what we're seeing sometimes with people who are under or underinsured, have huge deductibles. The system is very different than it had been in the past. So what's your recommendation? If you get a call from someone, whether you know their case fully or they just said, I'm really hurt, what should I do? What do you tell them?
Well, first of all, if they're calling me, it's because they're hurt and they're looking to be compensated in some way, because all I can do for someone is get them money. There's no justice for me. Nobody goes to jail because I'm representing them. It's just money, really. Whether they've broken an arm or someone has lost a life or a limb, I can only get them money. And so if they're calling me because they've been injured, the first question that I'm always going to have is, how did it happen? It's really not going to be a question of whether you should get treatment or not. It's going to be, if somebody says, I was walking down the stairs and I lost my footing and just fell, there's really not much more I can do for them. There's no negligence claim. There's no pocket for me to reach into to get them compensated, regardless of what their injuries are. They could have broken their neck. There's still no, I got a call this morning from somebody. She called me up, and she said that she was at a hotel. She stepped outside to have a cigarette, smoke a cigarette. It was raining outside. She was on a gravel walkway, and when she turned to walk back inside, she slipped on the wet gravel walkway. There's no case there. There's no negligence. There's nothing defective. There's nothing broken. It's wet stones. She's standing on them. Accidents do just happen sometimes. And Now, if she walked back inside from the rain and there was no mat placed down on the floor, now I have a claim against the hotel for negligence for failure to create a safe passageway for guests at the hotel. So again, for me, if they're simply injured, I would always recommend getting medical treatment. I would always recommend that they follow through. If they have no insurance, it's a tough situation. You want to see if your family can help, if you have savings, if you have friends. But if there's no insurance, sometimes it's a very tough situation.
It's just so important that they seek medical care.
Always.
I mean, we're always so patient-centric, of course, as a physician, that if someone is hurt, so many people have gotten hurt, and they've tried to get home, and I've seen so many times, because of the pure adrenaline rush of someone who's injured, that they don't know that they're injured for a period of time. And sometimes these are some very serious injuries. We actually had a patient in the hospital who was in a car accident, and she actually died a few weeks later. And she actually walked out of the car. So, I mean, she had a lot of internal injuries that required a lot of treatment. Thank goodness she went to the hospital, but didn't have a good outcome.
The car accidents aren't usually the problem for me because they're usually well documented. There's usually police that respond. There's a report that's made, or there are witnesses on the scene. Where I have my problems are the slip and falls or the trip and falls, because generally when we fall, we're embarrassed and we want to get up and we're hoping that nobody noticed, and then, okay, nobody saw that, and they just go on our way. And then you're a block, into your walk, and you're like, geez, what did I do to my shoulder? And then you get home and you put some ice on it, and then you wake up in the morning, or you can't sleep all night, and you go to the emergency room, and then the next day you call me. And then I get the call, and I have to prove that you fell, in front of that property or in that parking lot or at that gas station. I had this case once, and the guy fell gassing his car on ice and got in his car and went home and told his wife, I think I hurt my shoulder. And she was a nurse, and she took care of him. She said, I think you better get to the hospital. He went to the hospital, and he called me 2 days later. And this was before there were cameras everywhere, This is going back 20 years. And I had to prove that he actually fell there. And we ended up winning that case. But lots of times with trip and fall and slip and fall cases, people move on, and they don't realize how injured they are. They don't just seek medical attention because they hope it's going to go away. My knee, I hurt my knee, but 2 days later. And I have that problem also sometimes when I'm trying to negotiate a settlement. Well, your client ended up having shoulder surgery, but it took him 4 days to go to a doctor. We have this gap in time. Well, because he was hoping it was going to go away, and it didn't. So that's when he went to see a doctor. Or he called an orthopedist who said, come in next week. Sometimes they don't want to go to the emergency room and sit there for 5 hours. They want to wait till an orthopedic surgeon is going to see them, and you don't get to see an orthopedic surgeon the next day all the time. Today, you can walk in certain places and you can see, the PA and take it from there. But it wasn't always that way.
So let's talk about one specific type of injury, a car accident. You mentioned before. Why don't you take us through the sequence? If someone gets hurt in a car accident, which is not an uncommon occurrence, you said the police are there, they document it, you can seek medical attention, you go home, whether you call a personal injury attorney, or even if you don't, what rights do you have?
Well, if you're in a car accident, first of all, you've got the no-fault statute.
What does no-fault mean?
So there's a statute, we'll say in New York, it's in New Jersey, it's in many of the states, but it's not in a lot of the states. But under the no-fault statute, basically, if you're injured in a car accident, we'll say in New York, the vehicle you're in at the time of the accident has to provide what's called no-fault benefits to you. And let's say there are two parts to these benefits. So the first part is there to provide benefits for, economic loss. Economic loss means the benefits are there to pay for your medical treatment, hospital care, therapy, lost wages. It's there to get you back on your feet so you can get on with your life.
Let's talk more about the medical side. This is conversations.
Yeah,
so tell me about the medical side. So you're going to be covered by going to a doctor who accepts that type of insurance.
Correct. They have to accept the no-fault benefits. They're going to be paid in accordance with the no-fault fee schedule, which basically means if you go see a doctor and the doctor bills $75 and the no-fault fee schedule says that they should be paid $42, that's what the doctor's going to be paid, and they can't come after you for the balance because they're accepting the no-fault
It's like most insurances that people accept. Correct, right.
There's usually a $250 deductible. It's usually applied to the first bill that's received, which is usually the ambulance, if there is one, or an emergency room, if there is one. And the philosophy behind the no-fault benefit system is to keep people from suing. You're in an accident, go get well, get your benefits, get on with your life. You don't have to sue anybody. The second part of the no-fault system is that part that deals with the non-economic benefits, which is pain and suffering, basically. Well, what if you're injured in a car accident? You want to use these benefits, you want to get treatment, you want to get testing, but you also want to be compensated for your pain. Well, the statute says you have to show that your injury is serious. And they give us 9 categories of serious injuries. Certain categories, I tell my clients, you'll automatically qualify if you break a bone, if you have a disfigurement, significant scarring, if you're out of work for an extended period of time beyond 3 months, generally you'll qualify. But a lot of people don't automatically qualify. They're in that gray area where they're in pain, they're treating, they're getting positive diagnostic tests, they're going through what they feel like, jumping through one hoop after another, trying to get well, and at the same time, they're still trying to prove that they're entitled to be compensated. And we have a large section of our practice that concentrates on getting those people compensated.
So tell me, do these benefits last forever?
They don't last forever. And there's $50,000 of benefits that are available in the state of New York for you. It's $250,000 generally, in many cases in New Jersey, but in New York, $50,000 of benefits. And they're going to be there for you, again, by definition and by law, by case law, they're there for you to receive treatment for any injuries that were caused by the accident, that are reasonable, and that are necessary. And it's those 3, causality, reasonable, and necessary. It's usually one of those 3 that are missing for an insurance company to deny making a payment to a doctor. And they don't go on forever, and eventually the no-fault insurance company is going to set up an examination for you to see one of their doctors. If you're seeing a neurologist, then the insurance company is going to have you see a neurologist. They're going to pay for it, and they're going to call it an independent medical examination, even though they're paying for it. We call it an insurance examination. They call it an independent medical examination. And that doctor is going to determine whether or not, 1, you need continued care, 2, is it helping? So it's that double-edged sword where our clients, after 3 months of getting treatment, will go see a doctor for the insurance company. The insurance company schedules this. And you're going in there and, you almost have to convince the doctor that the treatment is helping, it's working, so that the doctor will allow for additional treatment. Because many people get terminated at that point, and then they have to weigh their options.
What happens if you're terminated?
You weigh your options. We talk about you go to your health insurance if you have it. You pay out of pocket if you have it. A lot of the doctors today, who truly are no-fault doctors, they will ask you to continue to treat. They will continue to bill the insurance company. They will take those denials, because they will be denied because the termination letter came in, and they have lawyers who will take those bills and will fight the insurance company to get them paid. And they mostly will win because, again, as long as you can show medical necessity and causality and that the treatment is reasonable, you're going to win. And a lot of the doctors will do that. They won't let the insurance company dictate what care the patient needs.
So I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on to work-related injuries.
Sure.
I know you're not a workers.
Well, we handle the third-party claims.
But someone gets hurt at work.
Yes.
Do they have to tell someone? They have to report
well,
it?
If they want, what do they want to do about it? Again, it's the extent of the injury. If you get hurt at work, you fell down and you bruised your finger, and that doesn't get in the way of you working, you don't have to do anything. It's probably a good idea to make a report, because if you make a report, then you're covering all the bases just in the event that turns out to be something more significant. But if you have an injury that is going to require medical treatment or is going to prevent you from working, then you need to file for workers' compensation benefits, and it's done through your employer.
And those are benefits that continue. That's medical care. And I mean, I see patients in my office, a lot of physicians do.
Absolutely.
So, and one other topic that I hear so much about with attorneys, and I know it's part of your practice, but not what you do, are people who can no longer work. And we call it Social Security, disability.
Yeah.
And it's such a hard topic to get your fingers around, because it's a very difficult aspect for physicians to write, very 10, 20, 30-page letters. Forms come in to try to assess the permanency of the process. What is your firm? What does any firm do? How do you determine what?
It's a difficult process. It's a really difficult system, to be honest with you, because, the attorneys, believe it or not. So let's say we have somebody who is deemed disabled and unable to work. Well, they go and file for Social Security benefits, which is basically a form of insurance that they've paid into for years and years as while they were working. And now they file for these benefits. It's more than just showing that you're disabled. There's a system, and there's a level of proof that you have to show that you absolutely cannot work. And that's why such a high percentage of people that apply for these benefits on their own get denied, because they haven't done the right job of proving in the Social Security system that they cannot return to work ever again. And the high majority of people that call us have already been denied, and now they need someone to file an appeal for them. We know how to put everything together. So let me put it this way. There are lots of advocates out there, Social Security advocates, firms that are advertising themselves as advocates, and they'll have you go get your medical records, and they'll have you watch a DVD so that you can be prepared for your hearing. What we're going to do is we're going to hold your hand through the process. We're going to get the records. We're going to prepare you for hearing. We're going to have an attorney at the hearing, and that's why we have such a high percentage of winning these appeals for people, because for a lot of people, they really need to win. If they don't win, they're in trouble.
And it's so sad. I take care of a large MS, multiple sclerosis population. We have a large center for MS. The idea that so many of my patients who are obviously disabled and can't work sometimes don't get through there the first time because they think it's a slam dunk, and it's not.
Because they think by filling out the forms and submitting them, of course I'm disabled, of course I'm going to win this, And I'll tell you, it's a very humbling part of what we do. We go home, we think about what kind of problems we're dealing with when we show up every day and we help these people who have very serious, injuries or illnesses that they're dealing with.
So now I'm going to take you to a different topic.
Great.
I appreciate you coming here today, and I know in 12 hours you're going to Nashville.
I am.
And I think my viewing population, my viewing audience, love to hear about stories about people.
Oh boy.
So tell us, you have a minute to tell us all about what you're doing outside of the field of law.
So I'm a songwriter. So music is my passion. I'm a songwriter. I've been a songwriter for many, many years. And in Nashville, Tennessee, I have a music publishing company. It's called Demolition Music Publishing, and it's actually just connected to what we started talking about. It's named after my dad, who was a bulldozer operator. And I lost 17 years ago. I've got 9 writers who write for my company. It's right on Music Row in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm there 3 to 4 days every month. We write songs, we record songs, and we have songs that are placed in film, TV, and with recording artists. It's a passion. I write every single day. It keeps me sane, and it's pure passion.
Have we heard any of your songs on the radio?
I know they've been in movies. I don't know. There haven't been any, Christopher Walken movies and Greg Kinnear movies and stuff out there. So, I don't think none of the major, a lot of up-and-coming artists have recorded my songs. And Reba McEntire came this close, right up to the end, and it didn't make her album. But they'll be out there.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's nice to hear that we have a life outside of what we sometimes do.
We have to have something.
Jonathan, I want to say thank you. You were a wonderful guest. We were able to talk about a lot of topics that people really are concerned about. People are hurt all the time. People don't know what to do.
No.
And when they ask their doctor what to do, our job is just to get people better. And sometimes in conversations in medicine, we want to help the person, not just from the medical point of view, but from the holistic point of view. Try to have them get whatever they're entitled to. The stresses that they have are very, very, very crucial. And to try to keep those stresses less is something that's very, very important.
True.
So I wanted to say thank you so much, and it was a pleasure, and good luck with your next
pleasure.
song.
Thanks.